10 days ago, the current UKIP leader, Nick Tenconi, announced that he was going to do a march through Whitechapel on the 25th of October, a crusade to reclaim Whitechapel, as it were. And this was met with quite a lot of aggression. And what I think has been really useful about this is it's genuinely showing us
they're going back to it,
what it is that actually lurks in this country. When the waters are still and undisturbed, you wouldn't realize there was a huge problem. But when someone takes a stick and kicks up the mud on the bottom of the pond, you realize that the whole thing is actually filled with filth. And that's the issue that we have here. We do not have a tranquil
I think that a lot of people have really underplayed how radicalized a lot of average people are. You've got to remember that, crowds used to go and watch people kill each other in the Coliseum. People would bring their families out to watch lynchings. This is a very, very common thing. So the idea that, this is unfathomable or whatever is just crazy. It's happened so many times.
Like we thought we used to. And Nick has shown us this with his planned march. Now, Whitechapel, you'll remember, is that area of the country that is basically a Bangladeshi colony.
No idea.
This is why they have Bangladeshi signage at the tube station. So people there know what this is because they don't speak English.
Oh, wow.
They speak Bangladeshi. Now, you can see that 64% of them were born outside of the UK. So this is a heavily colonized area. And in 2021, notice we're 3 years on and the Boris wave on from this. So this is going to be different. But you'll notice that English and English-British identity accounted for apparently about 10% maybe of the population and various other sort of identities as well. But most of them are not English at all. And in fact, if we look, you can see that this is 39.9%, nearly 40% Muslim. Again, it's going to be more than that now.
Saying colonized is ironic? Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's what happens. It's demographic changes happens everywhere.
And in fact, we don't know, frankly, because we're going to have to wait to the next census. In 2031, well, 2030, I imagine it'll be done and we'll get the results in 2031, to find out just how much more colonized this is. But the point is, everyone knows this is a very colonized part of the country, which is why their MP, Asmana Begum, Bangladeshi woman, said this.
From ending indefinite leave detention to creating safe routes, we need policies that reflect our values of dignity and compassion. That's why I will continue to push back against toxic...
They've let this get so bad. I really think this is going to be horrible. I think the UK and places in Europe are going to have massive issues. I think it's already
and
starting
stand
to happen.
up for solidarity, truth, and the rights for all who live here. Because this is in line with the traditions of solidarity in the East End of London, where we see diversity as a strength and where all of our communities include migrants from all around the world, where the Jewish communities...
She goes on, but as you can see, it's fairly stock-in-trade Islamo-leftism. We are the Muslim community who are in charge here, is what she's saying. We have inclusive, compassionate values, and therefore we're not going to tolerate outsiders coming into our community.
Yeah, of course.
The local police, the Met Police, were like, right, we're actually going to intervene here because...
So the police just showed up because they knew this shit was going to be a clusterfuck. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Worried, and they don't say this explicitly, but you can see they're saying this between the lines. We're worried that a huge gang of Muslim men are going to come out with weapons and murder some white Englishmen.
Yeah.
That's what they're scared of. And so they intervened to prevent serious disorder at Whitechapel.
Well, exactly, because they know that if the violence starts, then you're going to... That's whenever things are really going to kind of go crazy. Is that as soon as the violence starts happening and there starts being actual cultural unrest outside, that's whenever people are really going to get... And the point where I think that you go to real authoritarianism, you go to real totalitarianism, you go into actual military being involved, is when average people are afraid. When you get to the point where average people are afraid and they don't want to go outside, that's whenever you have average people that will vote for whoever will make it safe. That's what I think will happen. is that eventually this situation will get so bad. And I always wonder to myself, is this some sort of like fucking long-term plot so they can rationalize authoritarianism the same way that, like, you know, it could also just be advantageous positioning, right? But I think that's basically what's happening. That's already reality in Germany. Yeah.
In order to
that's where things are going.
The protest to somewhere else. Because they are worried that, you know, the organizers have described it as a crusade to reclaim Whitechapel from the Islamists.
Yep.
Which isn't going to happen in one march. And, of course, stand up to racism with their paid activists are out there too. And so Commander Nick John, who was in charge of the public order of the weekend, said, Tower Hamlets is the largest percentage of Muslim residents anywhere in the UK. It is our assessment that there is a realistic prospect of serious disorder if it were to go ahead in the proposed location. Yeah, no kidding. I think there probably is.
No shit. Yeah, obviously it's going to happen.
Because it seems to me that actually...
You think that's happening here in the United States? No. I think it's a lot worse in the UK and in Europe in general, just because of, like, geographic location. I think that, like, there are places in the US that have, like, you know, majority-minority areas, for sure. But in the UK, I think that it's much more pronounced and much more extreme.
This community is deeply intolerant of the native British and the idea that the native British are the people whose land this actually is. Yeah. They're very possessive over their area. And in fact, they came out in force. Let's have a watch.
Damn, I didn't even know about this. Oh boy. And this is in London? Or not London? Yeah, it's in London. Man. Paris also? Yeah, I've heard about that.
So I think masked, black-clad Muslim men chanting Allahu Akbar, whose streets, our streets, is actually a really useful thing to get, frankly, media of and pictures of, to put on the internet to make sure that people can share it around, because this is something that they love to respond to, frankly. The Muslim Defense Force, or the Muslim Defense League, sorry, love to get out there like they did after the murder of the 3 young girls by Axel Rudikabana. This is something we're going to see more of in the future. In the colonized areas, they're going to keep taking to the streets, and they've got kind of a uniform. I mean, they're dressed in black.
Yeah, I think that's the issue, right? Is that as long as it gets, once it gets bad enough, I think that people will want the government, or people will vote for the government to intervene. And I'll move my camera if they play more videos, okay? I didn't realize it was in the way.
All dressed in black. They're wearing their face masks, they're wearing head coverings.
Pretty obvious, right?
They know that they don't want to be spotted. Yeah. They know that if the CCTV everywhere, so you want to keep your face covered just in case you happen to do something and you don't want to get in trouble for it. So, like I said, having Nick propose this and making these people turn up on the streets, this is actually a really good thing. And you should send these links to the people that you know. You should make sure that your normally friends who don't really understand the scope of immigration, who don't really understand what has been brought here, are aware that this happened just the other day because UKIP were going to do a protest march through this area. So, okay, do you want these people on your streets?
Specifically targeting Islam. They said we're coming on a crusade. They said that we need to take back our streets. So my brother, this is a show of unity at the brotherhood nation. Even if they don't come today, we stand firm to let them know that if you come, anytime, we will stand firm, anytime, and we will be ready to defend our masajid, to defend our elders, to defend our women.
Protest march my ass. They wanted to white power it up. They're twats. I mean, both of the groups. I mean, like, here's the reality: both of them are racial and religious identity groups. That's the truth. And people might not want to say that because over there it can be illegal. But the truth is that these are both racial identity groups. And they are competing for power within the system. That's what's happening. Like, whether you disagree with this or you think one of them is wrong or not, that's basically what they are. There's no winner here. there will be an outcome for this. One way or another, there will be an outcome. And I guarantee you, no matter what the outcome is, it will be bad. There is no good outcome that will come from this.
I mean, it looks like a militia, right? Mm-hmm. It sounds like a militia. This seems to be what they're actually arguing here. But this doesn't sound like just a counter-protest or something. This sounds like men who would be prepared to come armed, and who knows if they did or not, because it's not like the police just patted them down or something. In fact, there's this guy carrying something here.
What is that? Turn it down. That's a lot of people.
Do you want these guys marching around your streets? Why are these people here? Is this GDP? Is this cultural enrichment? And of course, as you can see, the Muslim Defense League was there, but also the radical left were there.
Yep.
Now, while they're chanting refugees are welcome here, I can't help but notice there's a kind of informal segregation here, right?
It is funny how this shit happens, isn't it? Man, that is crazy. Wow.
The woke white leftists are on the right here, and the Bangladeshi Muslim Defense League are on the left. They are not sharing the same space. And that's really because these people don't actually agree with one another. Like, these people are deeply socially conservative. These people are radical liberals.
That's what I've always found to be odd about this, is that, you know, a lot of the, like, especially like a lot of Islam, at least to my understanding, is very socially conservative. And it's always been odd to me to see people that are like so positive around like bringing in people that have that religion, when that religion and the way that they believe is antithetical to everything else that they believe. Like, I don't really understand that. And I feel like it's a very confusing thing. But I think also, like, another big reason why I think that happens is just very simply because they never have to deal with it. And I think it's the simplest option, the most obvious option. It's that they never see any of the outcomes of this themselves. Many of these people live in nice areas. They don't have to see refugees on a regular basis, so they can just vote and, you know, go out and protest, and then they get to go back home to their safe community where they never have to deal with it. And I think that's the main reason why you don't have more of this conflict becoming evident.
Open borders leftists who are using these people as a weapon against England and the British people and the state itself. And they don't seem to realise that these people, when they're in sufficient number, are not going to tolerate these people. These people don't care about the social issues of these people. In fact, in many cases, they despise these social issues. And in fact, we've got a golden example of that from this march.
What is this?
The Muslim Defense League were marching past the leftists. Well, this exchange took place.
No need for that. We're on the same side, bro. No, we're not. Yes, we are, bro.
Man, amazing. We're on the same side.
There's no need for that. We're on the same side, bruv. No, we're not. Yes, we are, bruv. No.
Yeah.
That is the exchange. That is the point where you know they are aware of who they're standing next to.
Yeah, of course.
And they are contemptuous of them. They despise them.
Yeah, and these people will never admit that they're wrong. They'll never acknowledge this because doing so makes them feel bad. It's all about optics for them. It's optics and feelings.
They tolerate them because, of course, you've got to tolerate people who are purportedly coming out and waving the flag for Palestine and are on your side. But when they don't need to be tolerated anymore, when they're no longer a useful ally, well, they've already expressly said, we're not on the same side. No, so if you're a white leftist watching this thinking, but I'm just for immigration, I'm for good things, not bad things. Well, all I'm saying is, you're standing there with the foreign masked Muslim men who are chanting Allahu Akbar and walking through the street with faces like thunder, telling you that you're not on their side and they hate you. maybe you might have miscalculated slightly.
They'll never admit that. That will never happen. The reason why is that they are so afraid of the optics of sounding like they are racist or Islamophobic. They will never admit that. They would rather probably, and I think that it might change if it personally affects them, but in terms of like, as long as it doesn't affect them directly, they will never change and never move away from it. They are programmed to be pro-aid and minority, no matter what the minority is. Yeah, exactly. Like, and it's like, it's literally that simple. They just simply help whatever group is Western, basically. Like, whatever group is antithetical to their current culture, they will help that group.
That's all I'm saying.
It's that simple.
Again, this just is crazy.
Happened in
how
Malaysia?
These are basically turkeys voting for Christmas, isn't it? Like, this is the common joke that's made about queer.
British people really just don't understand it. No, it's turkeys for Thanksgiving. Okay? It's Thanksgiving.
It's for Palestine. But this is far more proximal, right? I mean, being a gay person in the West isn't really something that matters. It's very abstract.
No, it's not.
It's very academic. Well, I mean, technically, if the Palestinians took over, they'd do terrible things. Yeah, sure they would. But they're 1,000 miles away and they're never going to take over. Well, these guys aren't 1,000 miles away. These guys aren't 1,000 miles away, and it's a Pakistani MP.
Well, I've been seeing, I mean, and this is even happening with Christianity too, is that I think that really as a response to this, I think that we've been seeing, this is the first time that I think it's ever really been happening, is that younger people are actually going to churches more than older generations are. And I think this is especially true with Christianity. And you're seeing like a very big resurgence of this. And I think the reason why is because people do that as effectively a way to protest against the cultural changes that are happening. I think that's kind of what's happening, is that you can't directly protest against it right now. You know, I think that this will change as, like the cultural shift continues to happen. But right now, I think that one of the ways that people do that is that they go back to the religion that their culture used to have. And I think this is also, it's also true with Muslims and Arabs in Western countries too. I think that's the reason why a lot of them that are extremists are second generation, is because they turn to that instead. And so it's not like this is a unique thing to Christianity. I think that whenever a person feels alienated from their own culture and they feel alienated from their own space, they will turn to those more traditional means. And I think that that's why you've seen such a massive resurgence of religion. You see this with Islam, but I think that you also see it with the counter to it with Christianity as well. And the one thing that I find interesting about this is that the one thing that I think Islam and Christianity, a lot of them agree with, right, at least especially the extremist ones, is that they are very anti-LGBT. Very, very, very much so. Now, I'm not saying every single one, but like on an average, I mean, let's be real, guys.
Bangladeshi MP, who is the MP of this area. And they're the ones who are now the majority.
They go back to familiarity?
Group. Yeah, not the majority, but the largest ethnic group. And they have a Muslim militia that can take to the streets. So do you feel that the proximity is perhaps a little bit closer? Just a question. So anyway, the police intervened and they said to Nick, listen, these guys are probably going to come armed. They're probably going to kill you. And so you've got to move. And so they were rerouted to Knightsbridge. Now, Knightsbridge is 2/3 white. So it's a third English and a third...
Yeah, they know. I mean, this is like... And this is another problem, is that a lot of people don't address this, what this really is. I mean, this is a ethnic and religious conflict. And I think that a lot of people who are like Westerners, and I think that a lot of people in general don't want to categorize it that way because that's seen as like a bad thing. And you can say that's a bad thing, but I think that's absolutely what's happening. I think that there's absolutely a massive racial and ethnic component to this. And you can say that it's culture, and I think that like you're not totally wrong, but I don't think that that's the entire that's not the entire piece of the puzzle. It is absolutely like racial and also cultural and also religious. It's all three of them together.
European, and with very minor like non-Muslim populations. Like there's an Arab population of 6%, but like the Chinese population, various other non-Muslim populations. So unsurprisingly, they were sent there.
Well, yeah, they know there's going to be a conflict.
And even Nigel Farage was like, wow, this is actually quite bad.
Yeah.
And called attention to this.
It's time to talk about racism and extremism in Britain. Think about this. last Saturday, a march was planned, an anti-Islamic extremism march was planned. Have a look at what happened in response. Here we see large numbers of men, mostly young men, all men, no women, wearing a black style uniform, many with face masks, marching almost like an army, aggressively through the streets of East London.
Interesting how, I mean, he didn't name Nick or UKIP, but he also didn't mischaracterize them. He also charitably characterized them as an anti-Islamic extremist march, which Nick Tenconi has described his march as.
Yeah, of
so
course.
Even Nigel Farage's like, wow, okay, this is quite bad, and actually this is a real issue. Like, we were having conversations about integration only the other day. What happened to those conversations in the face of all of this? Are we still talking about integration? Are we still talking about these people being British?
Well, I think the problem is that there's like such a huge spectrum of it. And also, like, I think that really what happens is that because so many of these people have probably been added into the culture at the same time, it's happened so fast that they haven't really assimilated properly. And that's probably what's happened. Is that all of these people have never really, like, for example, like assimilated back into the general culture of the area, and they just kind of stay inside of their own unique removed group. And I think that basically they have created this problem themselves. They have created this problem. They never wanted to. Yeah, but they probably would have had to if it had happened more slowly, right? But if they're able to stay within their own community and never learn the language there and just get off benefits or something like that, you're going to have some problems. But yeah, no, you're definitely right that many of them don't want to assimilate. I mean, sure, of course that's true.
I mean, we know they're not. We know they're Bangladeshis. We know that 64% of them were born overseas.
They don't want to assimilate.
We know this is a heavily colonized area. What happened to that conversation about integration? What happened to that conversation about them being British, being like us? No, I mean, you've got to put up foreign signage because this is a place that is not the same anymore, right? This is a place that has changed.
I don't think that you're going to be able to have and we'll see if this is true or not. I don't think you're going to be able to have two religious extremist groups being able to coexist. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know any place in the world where it does happen. Like, just I'm trying to think in my mind, like, where does this happen? And there's like actual religious extremist groups that want to make laws according to their religion where they're coexisting. I don't think so.
And this is going to be something that unfortunately we have to deal with. So we've got to ask ourselves, is this what we want the future of Britain to be?
Yeah, I can see this getting worse and worse. I didn't even know about this march, but the fact that they knew this march was going to be such a massive crash out and they tried to stop it before it even happened, I think that really says a lot right there just by itself. And I don't know really how bad this is going to get, but I do think that it will continue getting worse and worse and worse over time until people just become more radicalized and more extreme. And from video games to Republican, you don't live in poverty, don't speak for people in poverty. Republican, this is, what is this here? This is some other random person. Let me read this comment. Let me link the video real quick. What about this is don't speak for people in poverty. Republican, what about this has anything to do with it? So shoot police are doing something wrong, right? It should be fine. Like, what do you mean by this? Bro is on food stamps? No, I'm just curious what he's saying, right? He's getting, guys, a waste of your time. Well, I'll let him make one more response and then we'll probably move on, okay? There's the video. Make sure to give it a like. And title is, I see dark tidings ahead. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And I think that you're going to have even more people going towards religion, people getting even more fixated on it, etc. And yeah, again, like also the whole Republican thing or whatever, you don't live in poverty, don't speak for people. I understand more about it probably than you do. I do. And that's the reason why I do talk about it, is because I understand it better than you do. And you're getting mad because you probably misunderstood something because you're stupid. But unfortunately, I'm going to keep saying what my opinion is on these issues because I think that it's important, right? And it's that simple. And he supports shooting cops. The fuck? I mean, it's just like brain dead logic. Didn't Trump get billions of other countries? None to us. You have a lot of money. Obviously, you don't care what's going to happen to well-off individuals. People in poverty or fight back. Well, they're going to fight back. 21K viewers, I can't even hit 100 followers. I just want to get 1K following. Yeah. So you're a broke, failed Twitch streamer, and you're mad at me for talking about things on stream that you think that you disagree with. Okay, yeah. No, it makes perfect sense now. Everything is put together, and I totally understand it. There we go, right? How about that, guys? And are you so jealous? Yeah, well, that's what happens, right? A lot of people feel that way. It's extremely common. And I think it's becoming more and more common as well. So, yeah, there it is. Seems mentally ill. Well, that's what happens, right? People are losers, and they get mad when other people aren't. But I'm going to go and take a little bit of a break and chill. It's I was going to say Thanksgiving. It's Halloween. And so I was going to end a little bit earlier today and chill out. But I'll hang out for maybe like 10 more minutes or so. Not going to lie, I think the only solution might be violence. I mean, I don't know. I think that really, I think that you will see a lot of violence. And I think that's what's going to happen in the UK pretty soon. I think it's going to be sooner than later, and I think it's going to happen in other places. What do you think will happen with Dearborn eventually? Oh, Dearborn, Michigan? I think that really one city or one area, you're going to run into problems whenever a religious extremist group tries to change laws that are conflicting with federal law or state law. And I think that this is a self-correcting problem that will happen through that. That's how it starts, yeah. Do you think humanity can survive if we all unite under one evolving belief system like science, or do you think that's impossible? It's impossible. That's just not how people work. And people are programmed to kill each other and hate each other and find reasons to do it. You have, different sects of Muslims killing each other. Then you have Christians and Muslims killing each other. You have Christians killing each other. You have, black people being racist to black people or white people. You have, light-skinned black people being racist to dark-skinned black people. The same thing with Asians. There will always be a way that people create in order to other each other and then find a way to have conflict. That's just the way it is. Yeah, it's everywhere. Yeah, it's everywhere. It's at the highest level and the lowest level. Why do you think people assimilate better in the U.S.? Do you think it's because most of the immigrants are Christians? I think people assimilate better in the U.S. than in the U.K. because there's less of them that are coming in proportionally to the population. So the U.S. is also a really big place too. So the U.K. comparatively is much smaller than the United States. So there's less of a concentration in the United States of those people. And I think that, yeah, the density matters, a lot of that stuff matters. And then also, I think that's actually probably the biggest reason. And I think also radicalization there happens more because of the speech laws. Ironically, I think that the hate speech laws actually end up radicalizing more people than they prevent radicalizing. The saddest part about it is some British people are going to see the writing on the wall in the nation. They're going to immigrate to America. They're going to advocate. I don't think we should let any of them in. I'm going to be honest. They've got to solve their own problems. That's my same outlook with every country, right? Is I don't want to take refugees from other countries just because they had their own country go to shit. I mean, I don't want to deal with that. We've got so many of our own problems. We've got poor people here. We can't deal with that in general. What do you think about this take? The problem is even if we clean them in the military with Europe, there's too many extremist terrorists already. Even after the mass deportation, there will be radicals with killing spree hidden for decades. I mean, you're going to have problems that are residual, but I do think that they'll probably go with a pretty extreme solution eventually if people get radical enough. It just depends on who has the reins of power. But I think that you are going to have probably pretty extreme solutions for these problems. And you're already having people talking about sinking the boats and the people that are swimming over, which is it's kind of a crazy thing to say really when you're thinking about it, right? I mean, these are people that are trying to come over to the country and you're blowing the boat up, basically you're sinking it, and then they drown and just die, right? And that's a pretty extreme position to have. And I think it's a position that a lot of people do have, right? And I think that just becomes more and more pronounced over time. And then after it gets bad enough, then it becomes normalized. That's it. Don't get in a boat. No, I mean, you can say that. I mean, again, you can explain all of that. But what I'm saying is that the fact that the culture and the the society is at the point where they think that doing that is acceptable, I think that's a pretty big step. That's a really, really big step. And that's the point that I'm making more than anything else, is that the fact that people are that fed up or angry or whatever, and they're willing to go and do something that's really kind of horrible to do. I think it really shows how easily people can go into that mindset. You do it a few times, eventually the boats stop coming. That's obviously why they would probably do it. Yeah, of course. Of course, that's the logic. Survival mindset. Yeah. And I think that, like, that's another thing is that I think that a lot of people don't understand that whenever people feel like they're in a survival mindset, they will pretty much throw away their morality completely. Like, morality will just be gone out the window, totally finished. Nobody's going to take seriously anymore. And I think that's what happens in a lot of cases. And so once that happens and people start feeling like they're, they're trying to, basically just survive, that's whenever it gets bad.